Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times, a Prancing Pony podcast production. I'm the Man of the West. Let's keep week 82 going with another Word Nerd Wednesday. Now, having introduced the new segment last series, the terribly tragic Túrin Turambar Tuesdays, I've actually decided to use these Word Nerd Wednesdays to look at some of those new names and words that we encounter in those readings. There are plenty of them, after all. Today, then, we'll see just how many names we can get through that we ran across in yesterday's reading of the tragic tale of Túrin Turambar. We'll start with the messengers sent by Círdan the shipwright, Gelmir and Arminas. Gelmir, which was also the name of Gwyndor's unfortunate brother, is a Sindarin name we're not entirely sure of. The last element is most likely mir, meaning jewel, precious thing, or treasure. We see that in the word Nauglamir, the necklace of the dwarves, as well as the Gwaithí Myrdain, the people of the jewelsmiths. But the first element isn't clear. Now, there is a Noldorin root gel that Tolkien says in the etymologies means joy, triumph, or merry, so that combination is possible. Arminas' name is a bit more clear. You likely recognize both elements pretty easily. The first is the Ar element, meaning noble, royal, high, as in Aragorn, Arnor, and so many more. Obviously, noble, royal, high is what it means. The second element in his name is equally familiar, actually, maybe even more so. Minas, as in Minas Tirith, Tower of Guard, or Anuminas, Tower of the West. It means tower, fort, city, specifically with a citadel and central watchtower. So Arminas' name likely means noble tower. Now, soon after these two delivered their message, we read that Handir, Lord of Brethil, was slain, for the orcs invaded his land, and Handir gave them battle, but the men of Brethil were worsted and driven back into their woods. Handir was the son of Haldir, who, along with his wife Glorithel of the house of Hador, fostered Hurin and Huor. He was slain protecting Fingon's retreat across the Anfauglith in the Nirnaeth, making his son Handir the chieftain of the Haladin. Now, the second element of his name is pretty common among men, because dir means man, adult male, as in Barandir, steadfast man, Dirhail, wise man, and more. The etymologies of the 1930s tell us that the first part of his name is the element Han, meaning intelligent, so Handir was intelligent man. He was the lord of Brethil, and I don't think we've ever looked at the name of the forest where the house of Haleth dwelled in Beleriand. It's a simple one. It's simply the noun Brethil, meaning silver birch, used as a place name. Brethil is an element in names like Treebeard's missing wife, Fimbrethil. Now, what's interesting about Brethil as silver birch is that Tolkien explains, in Parma El Delamberon 17, of course, that this is probably derived from the Sindarin Bereth, meaning queen, Elbereth, the Star Queen, one of Varda's names, precisely because the silver birch was an emblem of Elbereth and was associated by elves with the stars. Now, Tolkien goes on to differentiate it from the ordinary non-mythological word for birch, which was hwind or hwin. In fact, Tolkien says that the word Brethil was often interpreted as daughter of the queen, princess. So, Brethil, then, is a forest of silver birches. Now it's time to get to the name of the dragon everybody loves to hate, and for good reason, Glaurung. For this, we'll start by looking at the obvious element in his name, Glaur, meaning gold. It's the same element present in many names that you're familiar with, but in a reduced or mutated form. As eldamo.org explains, the vast majority of compounds with this word show a further reduction to either glor, with the diacritic over the O, or glor, without the diacritic, where au became o in polysyllables, as was usually the case in Sindarin. The reduced form is always glor as the second element of a compound, like in the name Maglor, but glor with the diacritic as an initial element if it's followed by a vowel, like Glorithel, or glor if followed by a consonant cluster, like Glorfindel. Now, it's specifically referring to gold as a color, not gold as a metal, and Glaurung is called the gold worm of Angband in the fuller version of the Children of Hurin. All that, but the second element of his name is unclear. Now, his name had been Glorund in Lost Tales 2, then it appeared in the Gnomish lexicon as Glorun, with Gund being glossed as dragon in early Noldorin word lists. Glorund was changed to Glomund in the Lays of Beleriand, and was still that in the early drafts of the Silmarillion before emerging as Glaurung in the later revisions. So we simply don't know if that second element is still dragon or worm, or whether it became something else entirely. In the text today, Glaurung is said to be the Uruloki. So what does that word mean? Well, in the War of the Jewels, we read, "Here, Glaurung, the first of the Uruloki, the fire drakes of the north, came forth from Angband's gate by night." Later, Glaurung is described as the Uruloke, which is the singular of Uruloki. The singular and plural both contain the element ur, meaning heat or be hot. We also see that in Urme, the name for the month of August, which means hot one, as well as aure, day, among others. The second element, loke, dates back to a primitive root lok, meaning bend, loop. Christopher Tolkien glosses loke in the Silmarillion appendix as snake, serpent. Now, one of the earliest versions of this story was called Turambar and the Foaloke, same root element with foa meaning breath. Now, what strikes me as odd and what I don't have an answer for anywhere is why Christopher Tolkien used the plural form, Uruloki, for this purpose as the singular, which should have been Uruloke. Anyway, we'll get to more next week, but for now, folks, that is it for today's Word Nerd Wednesday. Come back next week as we wander the wide, wild, wonderful world of words weekly on Wednesdays. And if there's a word you want to know more about, just let me know by emailing barnabman@theprancingponypodcast.com. Please visit patreon.com/Tolkien Times to learn how you can support the show, get an ad-free feed, monthly hangout with me, bonus weekly episode, and a lot more. And join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times for Third Age Thursday. Podcast listeners, subscribe to the show in your podcast apps. YouTube viewers, subscribe to the channel to get all of the PPP productions as we bring the entire back catalog of the PPP here, along with the PPP plays. And be sure you're following @PrancingPonyPod on social media. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.
Thank you.